Hi everyone, this is the Promotory channel. I'm starting the engine assembly, so the block is still at the machine shop. Some parts have already been purchased, some we're still waiting for, and some are on the way. So, right now I'm working on the cylinder heads. The heads have already been on the surface grinder. You can see the surface is leveled and 0.066 was removed from this head. 0.076 was removed from this head. So I'm lapping the valves. We're keeping the old valves in their original places. Each valve is marked for its spot. I'm lapping them, making the seat a bit narrower. Basically, there are no problems with these big heads, the guide bushings aren't worn. We can see the condition of the guide bushings. There's practically no play at all. The only thing I did was on the second cylinder where the sleeve broke and so on. I made a chamfer on the lathe at 45 degrees on the exhaust valve, 30 degrees on the intake valve, tapped them in place as well. So the valves are all good. The valves don't need to be replaced, so this is the head. The first, second and third cylinders are already done. The valves are lapped. You can see each valve has this kind of track from the seat, and the seats themselves look like this. Here are the fourth, fifth and sixth cylinders. Now I'm going to lap the valves some more. They're in this condition. You can see there's no imprint from the seat. And you can also see on the seat itself that it hasn't been lapped yet. So I'm going to lap this head now. Next, I already have a complete set of gaskets for this engine. The set should include valve stem seals. I'm installing the seals, assembling the heads, and then putting them aside for now. Also, I'll mention that the heads were pressure tested first, meaning they were pressure tested and then put on the grinding machine. Also, for example, the turbocharger has already been checked and the fuel equipment is being checked as well. The turbocharger is already on the shelf, packed in cellophane and polyethylene. The exhaust manifolds have also already been cleaned. I sandblasted them, took off the old gasket, and have already done a lot of work. Today, after assembling the cylinder heads, I want to install the turbocharger on the manifold and maybe paint the manifolds as well. So basically get everything ready so the manifolds are prepared for installation. So I want to remind you about my channel on Boosty. The link is in the description under this video. So what bonuses are there for Boosty subscribers? Well, there are several levels there. If you're interested, you can go check it out and get familiar with it. In short, I'll list them. So first, sometimes people write to me in the comments asking, why don't you show yourself on video? Show yourself. So on Boosty, there are videos where I show myself, where you can see my face. If you're interested, the link's in the description. Check it out. So in the future, I plan to do live streams either about engine repair or starting the engine after repairs, which I think would be very interesting. There's also an option to feature your photos in my videos. By the way, today there will be the first photo at the end of the video, my subscriber from Boosty. And at the end of the video I'll also list all my subscribers from the Boosty channel. There aren't that many yet. So you could say these are some of the first ones. And you'll simply help me run the channel and create videos so that videos are regularly released on YouTube and on other platforms. Because I had a break, and now after the break I kind of feel like I want to get back to all this. I'll publish the list of donors monthly, either at the end of the month or the start of the next. At the end of the video, as usual, there's a list of everyone who donated this month. And I also made a small announcement. Right now, ZMZ 513 V-type carburetor engine from a bus is being repaired. So there will be a video on the channel soon. It will be released on Boosty first and then on all other platforms. Earlier I prepared some footage. The connecting rods will go for machining, the seating for the rod bearings will be checked, and the piston pin bushings will be replaced. Next, I'm disassembling the cylinder heads. So, regarding the heads, we can see some details. We have two heads for the engine, each with 3 cast iron cylinders. I removed the injectors and unscrewed the injector mounting studs along with some other studs nearby. Well, that's because the heads are going to be resurfaced, so we need to place the head on this surface. So, as for the valves, they seem to be in good condition. Maybe we'll need to machine the working surface somewhere on a lathe, but overall, the guides are in good condition. There's almost no play. And the valves themselves are also in excellent condition. There will be a bit of work on the cylinder heads, meaning they need to be cleaned, sent for surface grinding, and the guide bushings. I won't be replacing them. I won't be replacing the valves, I'll just clean everything. Each valve is marked, as you can see. First cylinder exhaust valve, first cylinder intake valve. So I'll clean them, maybe make the seats a bit narrower as usual, and then lap each valve in place. Continuation. So the valve stem seals need to be replaced. They're already hard and stiff, that's obvious. Next, there's another detail about the valves and springs. We see there's a mark marked in red showing the top. Each spring has a red mark, which means that's the top side facing the valve plate. And there's another detail. The intake valve has a single spring, while the exhaust valve has a double spring, meaning a thick one with a thin one inside. We can see it's double, single, double, single. Well, on a Mercedes, for example, the exhaust valve spring is longer. On a Mercedes or MAN, the intake spring is shorter and the exhaust spring is longer. Here, we see the springs are the same, but there's an additional spring on the exhaust valve. So now I'm disassembling the second head. This is for the 4th, 5th and 6th cylinders. I'm cleaning it and we're sending the heads to the surface grinder. I also noticed there are copper sleeves or cups under the injectors. Maybe these sleeves will need to be replaced, but we'll see about that later. And I think the heads definitely need to be taken for pressure testing. I don't have the ability to do pressure testing in my shop with these kinds of heads. I'll check with the customer about the pressure testing, but most likely the heads will also go for pressure testing. To be continued. I've prepared everything that's going to an outside organization. The turbo will go for inspection, the heads for surface grinding and possibly pressure testing, and then the fuel equipment for inspection, the pump and injectors. I've washed and cleaned everything. This is what my injectors look like before sending them off. We'll see how they look after the fuel specialists are done with them. Usually they all come back covered in some kind of sand, some sludge, diesel fuel, oil and so on. And here I have the connecting rods. They're also going for inspection of the bearing seats and for replacement of the piston pin bushings. The engine block is still undergoing some work and it's not clear yet when it will be ready. This is the radiator from the heat exchanger. I need to clean it now as well. The heat exchanger housing is already ready. So now I want to take apart the compressor. We'll also do an inspection. At the very least, we'll replace the piston rings and valve gaskets, and we'll check if there are any bearings in this compressor or not. So basically we're taking it apart, doing a full inspection, and also ordering the spare parts. Basically, the cylinder is in excellent condition. I think we'll replace the piston rings and gaskets. The bearings need to be replaced. We can see there's some wear, some minor scratches, possibly also related to the oil. Some pieces got in here. The cylinder liner broke apart, so all these metal shavings and pieces mixed with oil ended up on this bearing. We can see there are scratches, but we'll replace the bearings. As for the rest, everything is basically in good condition. The crankshaft is also in excellent condition. So I'm continuing with the preparatory work. I worked on the compressor off camera. As I showed before, I took it apart. What I did was replace the piston rings. The bearings will be replaced as well. And also the gaskets and seals. The bearings aren't here yet. They'll only arrive in a few days. I decided to assemble it this way as much as possible. For now, I'm putting it aside. When the bearings arrive, I'll just need to install them and then mount the cylinder onto the housing. I've already prepared everything here. I washed and cleaned all the bolts, degreased them, blew them out, all the rings, put the piston into the cylinder, cleaned the valve plate here as well, put in new gaskets and tightened everything a bit. Later, I'll tighten it again in place. So basically, that's it for the compressor. For now, I'm putting all this on the shelf and I'm throwing this away. The block already arrived. They unloaded it about 10 minutes ago. So I'll tell you later what was done. But right away, I'll show you that here. In this spot. The second cylinder where we had the problem. A sleeve has been installed. It's non-removable. It's pressed in. Well, I'll tell you everything in more detail later. Right now my task is to prepare the block, clean the channels and wash it again. As you can see, it's all covered in diesel. It's greasy like this. So we wash it again, degrease it, blow it out and clean the channels. And then I'll start the assembly as usual, beginning with installing the camshaft and the crankshaft. All of that is already prepared. So I've prepared the block, washed it again in diesel and in the washer, blew out the channels several times, washed and cleaned them. Basically, I spent a few hours working on the block. Now the block is ready and I'm starting the assembly. I've prepped the camshaft. We're keeping the old one since it's in perfect condition with no issues. I've also prepared the lifters. We're keeping the old ones too. And they're in perfect condition. I've also prepared the oil jets. As we remember, 5 of them are in good condition. And one was broken. specifically on the second cylinder, E, where the liner broke. So we have one new jet. I've prepared the bolts here. E, checked all the jets to make sure they work. E, there's a valve here with a spring inside and a valve. When you supply air here, the valve opens. E, and oil is delivered through this hole. I'm installing the oil jets, lifters, camshaft, and then the crankshaft. Crankshaft. Crankshaft, crankshaft. So I installed the crankshaft, already tightened it, first preliminarily with a gun, then torqued it to 215 M, well 25 kg, that's it, it turns now. I vinosti redus. According to the manual, here we need to tighten the main bolts, the bolts for the main bearing caps, with a force of 30 kg or 300 N, without an additional 90-degree turn. So I've already tightened it to 25. Now I'm setting the range to 30, tightening all the bolts, and I'm just marking them with a marker for myself. So I know these bolts are already tightened, and I don't have to go back to them. So I'm tightening the bolts. Next, I'll probably install the front cover, put the gears on the camshaft, the intermediate gear and basically set the timing marks. Next, I'll probably install the rear cover. By the way, it's not cleaned yet, it's actually the last part from the engine that hasn't been cleaned. I'll install the rear cover and the flywheel. Right now I'd like to install the pistons and connecting rods. I still have the rods. The machinists are replacing the bushings. There were some minor issues with the bushings at first. The wrong ones arrived, so they had to be replaced. Basically, we had to wait for the correct bushings to come in. Now we're just waiting for the machinist to finish. So I don't have the connecting rods yet. So for now, I'll assemble whatever I can up front, in the back. And then when the connecting rods arrive, I'll install the pistons. We removed 0.17 millimeters from the block at the cylinder head surface. I think I still need to shorten the pistons by the same 0.2 of a millimeter. So now install the front cover, the rear cover, and then I'll work on the pistons. I'll trim each piston and make it shorter by 0.2 of a millimeter. Alright, that's the scope of work. Let's continue. Let's go. So I installed the crankshaft, installed the intermediate gear for the oil pump drive, installed it here. Well, the camshaft gear, the camshaft, the bolts, put them on thread locker, inu. Also put the thrust washer on thread locker, inu. And here I installed the fuel pump drive gear. It's held together. On this side, two bolts are tightened. One is temporary, and on the other side, two bolts are also temporary to hold it in place. So now the only thing left is to install the timing intermediate gear, and it turns out all the timing marks should line up for me. So on the crankshaft we see the mark on the gear. On the camshaft it's the number 1, and on the pump drive gear it's the number 2. So now I'm aligning all 3 of these marks. That's basically it. And now I can close up this front cover. The timing marks are set. So here we have the gear. See, 0 is for the crankshaft, 1 is for the camshaft, and 2 is for the fuel pump. So the bushing is all good, and the teeth are also in excellent condition. I prepared the bolts and the washer. This is how it holds the gear in place. I've also already prepared the front cover. I replaced the oil seal here. As we remember, during disassembly we had a 2-piece oil seal, but now the kit comes with a regular oil seal with a spring. I've installed it, and we have a new gasket here. Now I'll get the bolts ready. So we can see that all the marks match 0 with the dot, 1 with the 1s, and 2 with the 2s. Alright, next I'll be installing the sleeves and pistons. We've already arrived, and as for the sleeves, we gave them to the machinist. They machined the seating area for the sleeve, so that the sleeve has a protrusion. I haven't checked the manuals yet, but I think it should be 300ths. And for the sleeve, they pressed in the non-removable one. They also made a 300ths protrusion. So, for the pistons, they removed 1700ths from the block at the cylinder head mating surface, basically 2/10. Now I'm going to remove the same 2/10 from the bottom of each piston. I've already done one piston, and this is how it looks. Now I'll show you how I did this, using one of the cylinders as an example. Basically, I've already shown this process more than once in my videos. I make a jig out of a sleeve. I took an old sleeve, cut it to the height of the piston, and made a cut here with an angle grinder so it can be compressed. So I clamp it in the lathe. Align this surface using a dial indicator to eliminate runout. I end up with about 0 to 0.03 millimeters of runout, which is within the acceptable range. So I align this surface using a dial indicator, then bring the cutter close and make contact. After that, I reset my dial indicator and use it to move the cutter exactly by 1/10 of a millimeter. My machine is old and worn, so I can't set it to 1/10 of a millimeter precisely, but with the dial indicator it's easy. So I set it up, move the cutter by 1/10 of a millimeter, make a cut, then take control measurements from the top compression ring to the bottom of the piston, and then I move it again. There, I remove about 8, 9 or 10 hundredths of a millimeter, and that's it. In 2 passes, I remove 2/10 of a millimeter. That's all. So I'm showing it with one piston as an example, but I machine the rest without the camera. I machine the pistons, then install the sleeves and the connecting rods. I put the pistons on the connecting rods, also install new rings, put on the piston rings, new bearings in the connecting rods, and then install the pistons with the connecting rods into the block using Creo connecting rods. Time if I manage to do it. In theory, today is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. In theory, in 4 days. I would like to finish the engine completely, but I don't know how it will turn out. I still don't have the fuel equipment. It's still being repaired by the fuel specialists. That's why, as usual, we won't make any predictions. Of course, we'll try to do it as quickly as possible. But from the moment the block arrived from the machining work, it's been, so this is our 3rd day.